Hey guys, I'm JR. This is Boots and this is Dukina. Today we are going to be painting some League of Legends. Now, full disclaimer, I have never actually played League of Legends. I'm not a huge fan of playing MOBA games myself. I'm more of an FPS player. That was weird. Now, before you come after me with pitchforks, I want to clarify. While I don't play the game, I do enjoy trailers and occasional gameplay videos, but what I really appreciate is the character design. That's always impressed me, and there are so many characters. It wasn't easy choosing one for today's painting. One thing's for sure, I definitely didn't go to Google and search the most popular League characters and pick the first one that caught my eye. That would be choosing my content based on what's popular, and that just doesn't work on YouTube. Before we get started, if you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like. And if you want to support the channel, one of the best things you can do is to share this video on social media, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, or some random forum post, wherever you might frequent online. But this intro has run long enough, so let's go ahead, jump straight into this. Personally, I don't have much practice painting male characters, which is a big reason I wanted a male character for this project. I often pick the topic for a painting based on something I struggle with, rather than what I can already do. A question I get asked a lot: how do you teach yourself to be an artist? How do you go from stick figures to actual paintings? And the answer, other than the obvious dedication, time, and patience, is to start every project outside your comfort zone. Make the goal of every painting something you couldn't do yesterday, and then do that repeatedly until you get there, before at that point then picking another goal. But League of Legends has a lot of male characters to choose from. I wound up with the Ruined King Viego because from the moment I read his character summary, I had this idea and a mental picture for a painting of him sitting down in a arched covered stairway holding a keepsake of the one thing he still cares about in this world. Or it might be more accurate to say, obsessed with something no longer in this world. Once ruler of a long-lost kingdom, Viego perished over 1,000 years ago, when his attempt to bring his wife back from the dead triggered a magical catastrophe known as the Ruined Nation, transformed into a powerful, unliving wraith, tortured by an obsessive longing for his centuries-dead queen. Viego now stands as the Ruined King, controlling the deadly harrowings as he scours Runeterra for anything that might one day restore her, and destroying all in his path as the black mist pours endlessly from his cruel, broken heart. This painting will be challenging to balance because he is a menacing character, but this is an emotional scene I'm painting. The upwards perspective helps, but it will come down to maintaining an expression that communicates focus and determination centered around what he has lost. I don't want him teary-eyed because that goes against the whole menacing vibe I'm going for here, but I don't mind substituting symbolism by having the scene be rainy. Throughout this painting, you'll find that I'll continue to lean on reference art to help me stay true to the source character and help with anything I might struggle with, like when we paint the abs and facial features later. Collecting some reference material, I figured a good place to start was the official character page on the League of Legends website, which is where I found the current reference I'm using to nail down all the character features. With an excellent painting like this for reference, we can see what each material is made out of. From the leather used around the clothing and metal trim on the shoulders, to the diamond-shaped studs on the two belts and oversized metal gauntlets. Of course, my painting at the moment is looking a little bit blobby, but that's really the perfect place to start early in a painting, because it allows you to work on contrast, blocking, and posing before details start getting in the way. Think of it this way. while a simple fix might just require a tweak with the liquify tool, a more difficult problem might require a repaint or even throwing out an aspect of the painting altogether. And painting complex details repeatedly or wastefully eats up time unnecessarily. While we're on the topic, to tell you about a related issue, you might want to avoid tunnel visioning into working on one area of a painting to perfection. This is an issue I have struggled with in the past, but it's better to work on the whole image one step at a time than to perfect sections of a painting piece by piece. To paint metal effectively, it boils down to 3 details. What's the base material? Silver, gold, copper, etc. Where are the light sources? And environmental reflections. And when you balance those 3 values with the correct amount of contrast, you wind up with some gleaming metal that, with its visuals alone, describes what it is. It can also help, in some circumstances, to remember that shiny metal is not only reflecting light toward the viewing angle, but also onto the surfaces that are around it. Moving down just a bit, I imagine these pants as an almost denim fabric. A mental image of that will help with texturing and placing folds and creases throughout the material. But I want to look up a reference to really cement in my mind the direction these creases should pull towards for this particular pose. Looks like we want the folds to pull diagonally, almost up and over the legs. To show that the pants are made of a heavy material, there should only be a handful of folds and creases, and each of them should be fairly large. Whoopsie, I forgot the perspective on his right leg. That won't do. Let's try that again. Talking about repaints. There we go, much better. The sword now is a bit trickier. It's like made of energy, or at least that's how I want to portray it, which I have not tried before. I'm going to experiment with this material and see where I end up. This should be fun. Now, as per usual, I take my own artistic liberties with the design to a degree, like how I've made the collar of Viego's jacket almost wisp away into blue flames. But at this point in time, I don't feel comfortable giving a character a complete redesign yet. Never say never. One thing I do want to try is having the black mist from Viego's chest almost trail off of some of his clothing, and in this case, his sword as well. That way, the energies from all these assets sort of start to blend together. But right now, I'm not even entirely sure how I want to handle the visual appearance of the black mist. Part of me likes the angular, sharp look to it I have right now, but I also want to try a more wispy alternative that I think will look pretty cool too. I'm achieving this look by painting with a soft round brush the basic tendrils of the mist, and a large soft brush to add the dark haze around the area. But then I come back in with a hard round eraser to chip away at the soft edges, leaving behind an almost dark aura around the black mist. Let me know which look you prefer down in the comments, but I ended up settling on a compromise between the two by literally combining parts of both of them and merging the two versions. I found painting Viego's face difficult, in part because I don't have much practice painting male faces, but this was more than that. This really came down to troubles balancing the emotion. This situation has the scene describing his emotion more than his facial expression. But I also can't have the subtlety of his facial features conflicting with that message and tone I'm going for. Now this scene is still raining, so we need to make Viego's face and hair look wet. This should be relatively simple if we take the textures and colors we've already established for his hair and add in some stringy strands as well as some sharp highlights that directly reflect our light sources. I think that looks pretty good. The face can simply have a few more light source reflections than it usually would, and in combination with the appearance of the hair, that should do it. Well, I guess I'm going from one challenging part of the painting to the other, because what needs work next is Viego's torso. Yay! Oh well. Let's jump right into this. The torso is going to be difficult for me to paint because there's a lot of defined anatomy, particularly how every muscle lines up with its neighbors, especially on a muscular character like Viego. To help me work through this, as well as learn while painting, I will be falling back on reference art as a roadmap to place the different muscle groups. Specifically, to cite my reference, we are using Sakimi-chan art today, because she paints a lot of characters with exposed midriffs, and her male characters have a lot of defined musculature, which is a perfect reference for what we're trying to learn here. I'll link to some of her content down in the description. She is one of the 7 primary artists I study, and I would highly recommend taking a look at some of her work. When using reference in this way, it's beneficial to look at multiple paintings, for a few different reasons. For one, just because you chose a particular painting for reference doesn't mean that it doesn't have a mistake of its own, or even an artistic choice that might work for the artwork in question, but not yours. But more importantly, by using multiple references, you can learn and really internalize the knowledge by interpreting what you're seeing into a new design. And if you still find yourself struggling with the painting, try narrowing your focus to what is specifically troubling you, whether it's texture, anatomy, blending, or even if it's something else like hands or eyes. Make a new project and practice that. Look up tutorials and references. Even following along with somebody else's painting process can be extremely useful to learning something you're unfamiliar with, because it gives you somewhere to start. Now, let's move on to final lighting. Definitely the part of the painting process I enjoy the most. This is when everything will start to come together. Our first layer will use an overlay blending mode as we go around the painting, adding in color glow from the numerous light sources we have here, but primarily the sword. Next, we'll drop in a multiply layer to bring more attention to the painting's focal points and drop everything else more into the shadows. together, these two steps will help balance the concept so that the viewer's eye doesn't wander around the canvas aimlessly. Now we have a few more touch-ups before calling this painting done. Mostly background work like the rain outside the archway, not to mention the detailing of the archway itself, but I also want to make sure to add some detailing to the stone stair Viego is sitting on. An idea my mom followed up with was having a slight orange glow coming from the other end of this alleyway Viego finds himself in, presumably from one of the other buildings. Just what this painting needed. Another light source. Oh well, it's fine. I actually do think it's a good idea. One last pass, we're just going to go around the painting at this point and touch up any small details that might need a little more work. For instance, we're finally going to add the fabric texture to the pants. It's a small detail, but I really love this step whenever I do a fabric that should have a little bit of a thread texture to it. Making this look right mostly comes down to using the liquify tool to shape it to match the pants' deformities in the folds and creases and all that. The texture is present on a multiply layer, and I think it's turned out pretty awesome. And all done. This painting turned out pretty good. I'm really happy with a lot of the details that went into this. It was definitely tricky balancing all those different light sources. If I had anticipated that, I probably would have ended up picking a different character for the project. But here we are. I'm glad I didn't, because this project was a lot of fun. I enjoyed learning about Viego's backstory and lore throughout the project. It made for a compelling villain that I enjoyed researching. And while I know I've only scratched the surface on League of Legends characters and stories, this was a fun first dive into the lore, and I hope you all had fun too. But that is going to be all for today. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified on future episodes. I try to post as often as I can. In the meantime, here is a playlist of some of my best art on the channel, and over here is a video YouTube thinks you might like. Anyways, thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you all next time.